Hey, good evening and welcome to our first ever Ascent Leadership Live podcast. My name's Julian.
And my name's Libby.
And the microphone is way over here. Let's bring that in so they can hear us. So we've got our guest Dan Randall today. The idea behind these conversations really is to just ask some good questions for youth leaders, stuff that we're asking ourselves as youth pastors, that will hopefully help you go deeper, live stronger, and be empowered in all you do. And so we're live right now, but if you're watching the recording, you can skip through to your favourite bits and just skip over what I'm saying. I'm sure you love to do that. And if you are watching live, you've got the great privilege of being able to drop some questions in the comments. We're picking these live up on the phone, and we can put them to Dan as well.
Amazing.
Do you want to just tell us a little bit about yourself? Say hello to the wonderful people.
Yeah. So hi, like I said, my name's Libby. Me and Julian are both part of Bridge Church, and we're part of the core team of the Ascent Festival. And we're really excited about doing this. We were praying and thinking over how we can continue to help young people and youth leaders live stronger, go deeper, and be empowered. And this is one of the ways we're doing that. We hope this will really help you as youth leaders to be empowered to lead your youth groups up until next summer, when we might finally be able to meet you.
When we meet again, I can't wait. So, Libby, in this wonderful season of lockdown, what's been your favourite thing so far?
My favourite thing has been being able to go to work in my slippers. That's been loads of fun.
Great.
And being able, I did work the other day whilst wearing a face mask with my slippers on, just had my laptop out. It was great.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I wasn't expecting to come downstairs to that. That was a little bit of a shocker.
What's been yours?
It's all good.
What's been your favourite?
I think probably the flexible working hours. That's been really nice. So like working from, but the problem with this, I found working from home, it's been a bit more invasive because you can be straight into a Zoom meeting every other minute. And so like there's been kind of happy, sad moments where there's flexibility, but then like you're kind of on call a little bit.
That's true.
Anyway, we're going to get stuck into it tonight. We've got a guest, the wonderful Dan Randall, who has a fantastic beard, a fantastic ministry. Some call him the Stig. I don't know if that's even true, but we're just going to move over and say hello. Welcome, Dan Randall. Hello.
Hey, it's good to be with you both and everyone watching.
It's great to see you, man. Be honest right now, are you wearing pyjamas in the bottom half there that we can't see?
I'm wearing joggers. Got joggers.
Right, that's fantastic. What have you found being the best thing about in lockdown at the moment?
Yeah, wearing joggers to work's been pretty good. Yeah, I'm a big fan of the slippers. Being in control of what coffee is available is very important to me. Yeah, before you judge me, that's correct. I am a coffee snob.
Amazing. Come on.
And yeah, so I ordered 2 kilograms of Taylor's Espresso Harrogates.
So like while other people have been stocking up on toilet paper, you've just stocked up on coffee.
Yeah. Fresh bean.
That is amazing. And so besides being coffee, what would you like? What kind of led you to be in youth ministry? Because obviously you sort of wear 2 hats, don't you? You're a youth pastor and you head up the kind of national arm of evangelism for Hope Together.
Yeah. So I would say what led me into youth ministry was I know a lot of people's stories in some ways, because actually, why would you want to do something if you only had bad role models in it? Unless you've got that kind of personality, you're like, I have to be the one who does it right.
Right.
But yeah, my youth pastor, he was phenomenal. And I would say the thing that was kind of the hallmark of his ministry was giving people opportunities and taking risks. And I've just carried that through into every aspect of what we do in local church, with leadership development across the church, but also then in youth ministry and other areas, and then nationally as well, as we raise up young evangelists. Exciting.
That is awesome. We've also got a little bit of a game to play as well, because not everyone will know you. I'm sure many people will recognise your face, but we wanted to do like a get to know Dan, a get to know our guest kind of thing. So I'm just going to welcome Libby to the screen as well. And then Libby has got just a few little questions, just really to find out what your tastes and what your interests are.
Amazing. So we thought we'd do a little bit of a would you rather. So to kick you off, would you rather live in a cave or live in a tree house?
Cave or a tree house? I would. Yeah, a tree house.
A tree house.
Yeah.
I think that's a good shout.
It's a good option.
Would you rather be able to teleport anywhere or be able to read minds?
Teleport anywhere. I don't want to know what people.
Yeah, I think like if I was I'd be worried. Have you seen what's that film with Mel Gibson? What Women Want? Have you ever seen that? Where he gets struck by lightning and he can hear like everything a woman's thinking, and it starts off pretty well, but it goes downhill. That would be what it's like. I wouldn't want that.
That'd be horrendous. Okay, one more.
Yeah.
Would you rather be unable to use search engines or unable to use social media?
Oh.
The social media, yeah.
Are you normally like a big social media user anyway?
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I'm saying I'd rather get rid of it.
Yeah, fair play.
So I'd rather have the search engines for the actual facts. Or well, I guess they're not really fact. Well, it depends where you go looking.
I kind of feel like if you lost Google, we'd lose like all of our way. And I mean, besides having the Bible as a guide, we'd lose everything with Google.
Totally. I actually don't know what people did before Google. Like, how did they find things out?
We used to blag things, didn't we?
And Carter 99 on it.
Yeah, I remember that. So Libby was born in 96, so she's got no chance of remembering that.
A CD-ROM.
What was your first ever computer? Mine was an Atari ST.
Yeah, I think mine was a Windows 98.
Oh, mate.
The glass. I mean, when that monitor's that heavy, what's it made of?
Like, that seems so revolutionary. We used to download a picture 1 hour at a time. That used to be like the best thing ever.
That's insane.
Dial-up.
Hey, we're not going to waste any time. We're going to jump into it. So tonight we're talking about how to lead online, and I'm aware because you've done a podcast already with Youthscape. I've been reading up on an article you wrote as well, which was very good, very helpful. We might pop a link in the description as well in this video to that. Well worth a read. But we wanted to kind of just follow up on some questions and really, because as youth pastors, we're facing some challenges, and some youth leaders watching, or even if you're a parent and you're watching, or you might actually be a pastor of a church and you don't have a youth leader in place, you're asking that question, the challenge of how do I now minister in lockdown? And we know we're kind of over the peak, so the government's saying, but we also know we're not going to get back to normal anytime soon. And so we just want to put out a few questions. And the first one really is this: what are you finding is the biggest challenging leading online at the moment? What are some of the biggest wins that you're seeing?
I think the biggest challenges are the biggest challenge for everyone is, however people are, it's still understanding. There's a transition, so like, in broader church spectrum, there's a transition of helping people, not necessarily older, I'm not ageist, but people who are less digitally able, getting them into it. So that's the challenge, and then, which is partly sometimes the parents of young people, and then there's a challenge of the digital natives that already live there. All of a sudden now we're going into their camp, and it's like, and trying to do our thing, but we're not fully sure if it's relevant or not.
Sure.
And then I guess there's the people in between, and are they getting lost? Like, as a local church leader, I think that, like, who's actually engaging? We even had, that was one of the questions for us, the leadership community, like, who is actually engaging and really looking into measuring some of this stuff. I think that is the biggest challenge. You can get statistics from YouTube and all these different places, like, so many people are on it for an average amount of time, but, like, what if the only engagement a young person is getting is like 10 seconds of that, and we're trying to contact people, or so I think that's some of the biggest challenges. That actually, how are people engaging? You can see a person sat in a chair, or you can see a person out on a project, or what, not just in a church building, but like the face-to-face piece. I think I think some of the biggest wins is churches booming. I mean, the Guardian brought out a great. So if you're watching this back, that was Sunday the 3rd of May, and just to say, 1 in 4 adults in the UK have engaged with an online church service in the UK.
That's so good.
Tearfront brought out a piece of research with Comrades, the very reputable secular research people, that said 44% of adults in the UK are praying.
That is incredible.
Now,
Yeah.
would pray. Due to this season. So I think and obviously those statistics are going to come down to young people and be replicated. It's not going to be worlds apart like a lot of these stats show. So I think what's really exciting is there's a hunger out of desperation. There's a desire to pray, and there's a desire to connect. There's a desire to reach out with a higher being. Obviously, we know him, but for people. And so I think we found young people stumbling across things or looking for things, and are they going to search the name of our youth ministry? Probably not. But are they going to be searching hope or prayer or help?
And that's the tricky thing as well. When you've never used an online platform, there's some churches that were already streaming, already exploring that, whereas now we're all kind of forced into that world. And I think I read a stat the other day, there's about 1 billion people now on YouTube. But as you say, it's not necessarily they're going to be searching for your church. They don't know the name of your church. Yeah. And then I guess because even doing stuff like this, we don't know who's watching, we don't know who's keying in. All we get is maybe a stat of how long have people have watched. And I think you're right. One of the biggest challenges we can face is, are they engaging, and how do we even measure that? How do we know a young person's engaging? I guess with Zoom that's a bit easier because it's face to face. So I know there's a lot of Zoom Connect groups out there, or Skype Connect groups. But as you say, I think it's a whole new world for ministers and youth leaders.
Yeah. And I think that's been one of the biggest wins that I've heard from most people. It's the growth in small groups across the board in churches and young people as well. Youth small groups exploding, and part of it's because some of them are out to attend the small group, but they're accessing it now, so you can look at that whichever way you want. But that's quite exciting. It seems to be the win. Where it is real-time connection, real-time kind of using this stuff, and it seems actually the things that seem to be least effective when you he's across the country, whatever he's trying to replicate the event, in another way, and so there's elements of that message, but I think the danger is that we just try and replicate what we had, so we can almost preserve it. So that when you can have it in real time again and face to face, then it's like this old thing that's preserved, and maybe God's trying to do something in this season. Obviously, He's not caused coronavirus, but He's trying to say, actually, innovate. Let's figure out some new ways to do this.
And it's important to not miss what God's doing in this season, isn't it? There is that opportunity as things have been disrupted. Our new normal's been. Well, it's a new normal, isn't it? And that's. But I think what I've seen from churches as well, because you picked up on that, trying to do the same thing but doing it online, and I think it's maybe asking that question: is that the right medium now? Because if attention span sits somewhere between 3 to 5 minutes for a YouTube video, if somebody's kind of a part of your church, they'll watch for up to 40, 45 minutes. But then we've seen that even in our church, 45 minutes is kind of your limit. You've got to ask that question, do the same things work now? Do we maybe need to change the way we deliver the gospel, the way we deliver Bible teaching, the way that we deliver fellowship as well in that sense?
Yeah, totally. So a lot of leaders as well at the moment might be feeling intimidated by reaching out to young people online, and particularly perhaps those that don't have a youth minister in place, and it's a smaller church. What are the most essential and effective things that you think youth ministers or pastors can be doing right now to reach young people online?
I think someone taught me a long time ago that that actually in times like this, or in times where you're trying to re-figure out how to do things, it's almost like you're re-envisioning the thing, or you're really strategizing, is to ask some awkward questions. I guess I kind of, and these are, I imagine there's other people asking these questions, but I guess I landed on 4 awkward questions to kind of begin to ask. Great. And that I wrote down at the start of this season, and our team, and just thought we need to begin to work through these. The first one was, what are young people facing? So in terms of if you're a youth leader or a church leader, or, that's passionate about young people, then you're gonna ask the question: what are young people actually facing in your town right now, or in your city, or in your village, whatever situation you're in?
Right.
Because this is the generation that are known as the loneliest. Gen Z and Gen Alpha. It's only going to get worse, sadly. So there's isolation upon isolation. Wherever.
Right.
Yeah.
And that looks very different. Also, then there's actually young people need kind of us to be that I guess that go-to point, that glimmer of hope, that half an hour Insta live, that Zoom live group, small group, whatever. And I think we've got to ask that question first. There's significant amount of hunger. It's not just families with small kids. It affects young people. It affects everyone. So I think we've got to ask that: what are young people actually facing in this? And sadly, either certain issues that were already there are now magnified. Seems to be the main thing. The second thing is, I think we need to ask a question: what does God want to? Sorry, what can Gen Z and Gen Alpha teach everyone else? Because actually, we keep calling them the digital natives, as they are. What do they already know that actually I can teach me? I rung a young guy in the Life of Youth Ministries, 16, the last week, and just asking him what's flying at the minute, what you're loving about our channel, what you're not, what do you think, and all this kind of thing, and what's he doing, what's he spending his time on when he's finished his 2 hours college work or whatever he has, and but then I think they've got something to lend to all the generations, from teaching their grandparents how to Zoom so they can speak to their mates. Young people teaching leaders like ourselves how to do this stuff. I think the third question is what God want to do in and through young people, which is always a question you have to ask. Anyway, but I think God really does want to do something significant through them because they are already ahead of the game.
Yeah.
In some ways in this, and they know how to operate and live in this. So actually, what is it like to impact? What is it like to communicate the gospel online? What does it look like to see people come to know Jesus online in a way that is real and leads to discipleship? And I think the third question we've got to ask is fourth question. Sorry, can't count. What is what are the things that we need again when we kind of come out?
Great.
What are the things we need that we've learned in this season that we need to keep going with? So I know it's 3 questions, but it's more like what are we carrying? What is that? So I think that's really important because I think there's part of us that just wants to run back and just I can't wait till I love people, so I can't wait till I see people. But if it's I can't wait till I can run youth like I used to run youth, then that's 2 separate things.
Yeah.
That's it. I love what you said as well about leaning into those that are native on the platforms because you can feel like, I've got to have the answer to everything and I've got to respond to every single need. And the reality is like we're capped by our skills and abilities and what God's put in our hand. And sometimes we've got to lean into the strengths of others and be surprised as well by the fact that might come from a 14-year-old, a 15-year-old within our youth group, showing us how to do those things or telling us where we maybe need to do better in some of those things.
Totally.
And it kind of just leads into this next question. You've talked about young people being the best way to reach people, to reach their own young people. How can we best position ourselves to help them do that? How can we best position ourselves to help our young people be evangelists in this season and share their faith?
Yeah, no, good question. I think the reality is this, and I think it's hit home for all of us, hopefully as youth leaders by now, is that this season has proved to us how well or how not well we were discipling young people in terms of relationally and also what we were discipling them in. And that's not a judgment on anyone. That's a question we've been questioning as a team at our church and just going, actually, this this season proves what we've taught them is the most important thing. Whether it's events or it's this or and what we all hope is that it's the kingdom of God. It's the gospel. Right. It's actually the church, the movement. It's not the building. Blah blah blah. We've heard it all before, but so I think that's been kind of the home hitter, and I think we've had to really make sure we've gone on a journey of going. Yes, first base had to be checking with the young people that are part of the community. A culture of care, get around and thing, but then we've got to quickly move into a missional focus. Right. We've got to quickly look at how we continue to empower young people to reach out, and that whole thing being discipleship. And I think sadly we've seen probably two extremes of discipleship when I talk to people around the nation. It's either been inward focused discipleship of like just kind of looking after keeping out with maturity through mission, as Rachel Gardner would say. How do we disciple holistically in this season? And I think probably there's three things, and one is that it's peer to peer. Like that is the answer. That's been the thing for me. It's just like actually I think that's the proof is in the pudding of how we've discipled young people, how anybody's discipled young people, because all of a sudden, like, whether our church, whatever kind of outreach our church does to young people, schools or on the streets or whatever that looks like outside the building, outside the church building, then we don't have any of that. We're not allowed to do it.
That's it, yeah.
And I know there's a very few small privileged schools workers who are still able to support in schools, but in reality, again, it's a small pool of young people. So I think in reality, that's kind of non-existent at the minute, and on the whole, or 99% so. And so actually, the route to young people is, like we said before, young people that don't know Jesus aren't going to come looking for our Instagrams or the youth group YouTube channel, because our youth groups have all got cool names or whatever.
That's it.
And actually maybe all our youth groups should have been called How to Pray or
top search terms.
Humanity. But you know what I mean? It's like I just don't think they're going to stumble. Some there's random things and God moves in.
Yeah.
But in reality, on the whole, there's those miracle moments where that kind of stuff happens. But then the answer is young people, bringing young people. It's the invitation culture. It's the bringing culture. It's And I think then the second thing there is that what's the content like? I've seen amazing content across the UK. People, what I love, my favourite thing is like the best polished, best. It's people that I know have never done anything like that. I've never made a video in their life, and they're having a go.
That's it.
I love that. Our senior pastor at church always says, "Have a go, you mug." That old Australian kind of phrase, and I just love that because some people actually who are probably more capable than those people haven't had a go.
Right.
And actually, but there's people out there who are having a go, and they're like, "We just got to have a go because for young people's sake, because there's young people that need reaching."
Yeah.
This is all we've got.
Yeah.
So I think that's amazing. But then when I look around, I think that some of this content's absolutely brilliant that people are producing, and it's amazing. And I think the genius stuff is where it's not just for a youth group. And I think it's a 5% change. I've made up that stat, but it's a small change. It's a small tweak to take that devotional video on your Instagram or Facebook or whatever that's really aimed at the young people in the life of the youth. Just a couple of change in language, a couple of removal of Christianese, keeping the gospel central and all that. And all of a sudden, that video is now shareable by a young person to their friend. Because actually, that's relevant language. The Bible understand who Jesus is. And so I think it's making sure our content is shareable by young people, not by our mate who's a youth pastor.
Yeah. It's incredible as well, because you're almost kind of reimagining. It's because it's the same strategies we do when we physically could meet together, but I think it's just being aware of how people receive that now online. And as you say, before, the ideal for an evangelist would be to get in front of the people you're trying to reach. But if you can't physically do that, the way to do that, well, who is in front of them? Who is connected to them? And then you've got to look at, well, how can we repackage our content? How can we repackage the gospel we deliver, the message, as you say, the devotions, and really give that to someone who can present it well. I love that. I love those points you picked out there.
Yeah, it's excellent.
And it's like worship songs, isn't it? Like, they are so shareable.
Yeah.
Like, great high quality videos or cool music videos that have been made about songs. Like, that's really cool, and actually a young person would share that because their mate's going through something and music's a way that speaks to them. So actually, sharing that's really easy. It's the post that sometimes we put on with it that's not.
Yeah.
It's really relevant and made it. I don't know. Anyway.
And all it takes is one or two kind of couple of Christianese words, and you're pitching at the wrong audience. Then, aren't you? You're throwing the ball in the wrong place. Yeah.
The message has not changed, like you said, but again, the method is changing. The method is changing all the time because, now, especially now, how we deliver the gospel. The gospel is unchanging, unwavering. It's so powerful, as we know, but actually, the way that that people receive that is, or how they get that. Get it to them.
And I don't want to over-egg it as well. I just think what you said about your pastor saying, have a go, you mug. Actually, that's so true and apt, isn't it? Because you can be intimidated by all these forms, but this is the medium we've got now, and it's really asking what's the best we can do with that, and learning something new and being willing to embrace that. It might work, it might not, but we were looking back on kind of YouTubers' original videos just to see like what the comparison was, and they're awful compared to like a year, 2-3 years down the line. And that's true of our preaching, it's true of our ministry, it's going to be true of what we do online as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I think sometimes scared of the unknown, aren't we? And this is a whole, even if we I get YouTube, or I've watched this, or running for yourself is a whole lot.
Well, we know even with our setup, we've got a mic, Skype, we've got a light going on, and we're just like, will this work, won't it work? But you're learning all the time, so.
Yeah, and I think probably with the peer-to-peer is the answer to reach young people. I think they are, and if we're creating shareable content, and I think the third thing that I was really struck by, because I kind of had those two things in mind for, I guess, I don't know, probably since the start of lockdown, is like that is the route to young people, is kind of, I guess you could call it kind of like the prophetic view of things. Because I don't want to call it the issues of things. We had to ask that question people are facing. But for example, there's a prophetic opportunity in bereavement. That is something young people are facing. Young people face bereavement all the time, like everyone does. But I think right now it's almost heightened. So even if they don't have a relative pass away due to coronavirus, actually it still heightens the bereavement they have because of the nature and the fear in the nation. And so that, as an example, actually there's an opportunity to communicate hope and the gospel and support young people in that way. And so it's not they're sad, let's shove the gospel down the throat, or quick, some sort of bad marketing thing around bereavement, or trying to nab some sort. But Jesus did it so well, didn't he? And we see that he sees what's going on in culture, he sees what's going on, and just that as an example is something that is such a I don't want to call it an issue. Like, obviously bereavement is bad and it's negative, but in terms of it's such, I guess, a hot topic almost. It's something that's that's on the agenda. When was the last time we had the news and it talks about who's died every day?
Yeah.
It's huge.
I think probably the last time I can feel that was 2004, 2003, the Gulf War 3 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Was hearing about soldiers. That was the last time we ever had anything, but like this.
Yeah, totally. And I think that leads us on to our next question as well. One of the things that we've noticed when pastoring our young people is that morale seems like quite a tricky thing to manage at the moment. Quite a few of our young people that would normally be quite hyped and excited have actually been quite melancholy in this season. some would say we've passed that panic phase of COVID, but actually morale and hope has taken a bit of a hit. So how would you strike the balance between recognising the situation that we're in, but also instill that hope and aspiration for the future?
No, it's good. I think I think it's the whole of society and what we're facing with every age group in some ways. It was really interesting. On the Thursday, they announced 3 more weeks of lockdown. That weekend, just on my personal social medias, I was on there, and I just saw a lot less content. Like, people have been at it.
Yeah.
We all know it. It's like meme they've ever found. It's like, obviously there was all the toilet paper memes the first week, and
got time to create these things.
Oh, so much. Just like, and the people were absorbing as much, and it was almost like this kind of people felt like we've made it this far, like we have to do it again.
Right.
Like that's kind of what, and I just kind of sensed that weekend. I looked at my social media, and then when I looked at the social media stats on the Monday, like just going on them and using the accounts that we have through church and help and stuff, and it was true. Engagement was down just across the board. But yeah, that Sunday was pretty.
Yeah.
A lot of churches, people were looking for something else, and I think things like that have ebbed and flowed, and I think in terms of it was really interesting because it was like when I put young people, the thing that they like love the most on like Instagram or not TikTok, more like some of the funny videos on TikTok, but on Instagram, it's just the memes.
Yeah.
It's like that's what we're doing. I think my biggest concern with young people is that they just kind of cocoon into their bedroom and hope that they come out as a butterfly. I don't know, but like I heard today, meeting with some of our youth team, that there's one girl. We're delivering some care packages for those who are still studying and have got exams and stuff, and she's not left her house for 6 weeks.
Wow.
This was my mind, mainly because on my teacher, I got ants in my pants when I was at school, but so I'm not very good at sitting still, but or being like, want to be out or whatever. But yeah, I think just that story is probably true for so many, and I think that's where some of this stuff of what young people are facing, it becomes perpetuated further, and I guess morale isn't great across the country, but it's probably worse at the younger end of things. And I don't think there's a silver bullet, and I don't think I know the full answer. But what I do know is that we're consistent with young people and being there, and maybe you were like, yeah, I want it to be super missional and stuff, but actually, what that young person needed through this season was just a text every few days. Or a phone call, and actually it got them through. So that actually we've got all these aspirations for them, but actually they need help surviving right now.
Yeah, that's it.
And I think we should never lose sight of that, because we've got plans and strategy or whatever. So I don't really have a proper answer for that. I don't think, but I think partly some of the stuff maybe we've done to ourselves of just what keeps us healthy. What are the things that we're doing to boost up each other? And I
guess that's where leadership really comes in for your youth ministry and your church, is responding to the times. And you've got to lay those plans down and recognise that we're not in a pushing forward season. We're in maybe an adapting or consolidating. And as you say, like maybe it's more, can we create anchor points for our young people? Can we just be that consistent weekly, I'm here for you, I'm praying for you, we're with each other, we're not... Although we're physically not together, we're not isolated. And as you say, like, even when you think about evangelism, maybe it's changing that into that relational mindset of this is more about how can we stay connected rather than how can we build something or establish something. So I guess the final question I've really got on this subject, it seemed like as soon as church went online overnight, the whole kind of digital market was saturated with devotional vlogs, with church services. Like we streamed, we were, after our church service stream, we had like 100 or different churches suggested to us next, and then we like youth ministries. Everyone's gone online doing a program, so the market in that sense is just overwhelmed. How can we kind of cut through that noise and get to what's the most important thing to help disciple? Because we're being bombarded as well, as you said earlier, with memes and all different content at the moment. Yeah, I'd say like what's the most important message we really need to be speaking through the middle of, we've got church online, that's great, but actually how can we get to the heart of the issue? Yeah.
What unites Jesus, but we ain't creating a holy huddle. We ain't on the Titanic and on the life rafts, and we'll leave the rest to go down with it. It's actually there's something in this which is, we've got open arms for others, and the message I guess I just keep coming back to is faith over fear. Like there's so many different fears that are out there. The fear of the coronavirus itself, the fear of the unknown, the fear of the future, the fear of next week,
Right.
all that side of things. Fear for your family, and I think it's not about being blasé with it, because I think faith over fear is reckoning and choosing to speak faith into the situation.
Sure.
And begin to step that out day by day. I think some people would say they have a faith over fear attitude, but it's more like, I won't catch coronavirus because I'm washed by the blood.
Right, yeah.
Which I have heard a number of times.
Yeah, same.
Particularly in Penn.
Oh, we love that.
Yeah, it's just like, yeah.
Not so much.
Yes, you are, but yeah, coronavirus is there. Yeah.
I mean, I think I saw something earlier where someone said, Noah trusted God, but he had to stay inside of the boat in order to stay safe. And I think like often we have got that attitude of we can go outside because we've got God. Well, no, there's still a flood. Just it's a pandemic instead of a flood. So actually stay inside the boat, stay inside your house, have a bit of wisdom in that. No, I love that. And I think it is keeping that mindset. I think that's probably the most important thing right now, because 5 or 6 weeks, it feels like a blur, doesn't it? We've been going through this quite a bit, and the danger is you take your eyes off the fact that it's a marathon and not a sprint, and this, although it feels quite intense at the moment, it's perhaps just a short stint in our lifetime.
Yeah.
And there'll be a next year and a year after where we'll talk about that time that we had the pandemic, but actually, there's an opportunity to press into some positive stuff there and say, actually, where's my faith at? Can I rely on God at the moment? Can I just go deeper in my relationship with Jesus as well in the middle of this? Because we've kind of got no excuse now. We've got some time available there. We've got some... we're less busy in that sense. We're less kind of controlled by our diaries and our calendars. And so I think that's fantastic. We've got a couple of people watching live. No one's dropped a question in yet. If you've watched this far, perhaps you'd be willing to like and subscribe to the channel as well. So this is Grassroots, still getting off the ground, so we'd very much appreciate that. If you have got a question, drop it into the chat. But if people are thinking of a question, Dan, could you just tell us, look, because you run something called Amplify, just tell us a little bit about what Amplify is.
Yeah, so Amplify is, I have the privilege of kind of chairing the team that leads that, but it's an amazing team. We lead it together of people from different organisations. We really sensed that in the UK there was kind of a gap almost when it came to evangelists and training people as evangelists. So I simply believe Acts 1:8, roll call to be witnesses, therefore roll call to do evangelists, to use the E word. But actually what it says in Ephesians 4 about the fivefold gifts, actually some are called to be evangelists. The main purpose for works of service, i.e. evangelism. And And so we set up Amplify Young Evangelist Academy as a way to give 11 to 17-year-olds an opportunity to train as an evangelist.
Amazing.
In situ, through mentoring groups and through couple residentials, through specialist mentoring input in specialists in the areas that they're interested in around in evangelists. And because it seemed like there was loads of amazing opportunities to train as an evangelist at 18, or Youth for Christ, Pays, The Message, SU, blah, 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 loads of other people, do gap years, that kind of thing. And but how do you kind of step up into that age 11, 17? So,
right.
That was the question really. And so this is kind of where it led us. So we're just finishing the first year at the minute. And we're going again September. And it's going to be great. So if you know someone who's a potential, they've got some fruit on the life in terms of they clearly love sharing their faith. And then
wonderful. So
you need to apply for them as the leader.
So our youth pastor's got to apply on their behalf.
Yeah, church leaders, anyone, and a leader in their life.
Great.
That's not their parents.
Great. Okay.
Needs to apply for them.
Super.
Obviously, everyone's mum always says they're an amazing.
Yeah, that's it.
So
my son should do this. He's brilliant. My mum did. So I've put a link in the description as well. So if you want to check that out, feel free to drop down to the description for that.
Amazing. So we've got a few things I'd like to get you guys to do who are watching. So the first is, if you can, please like and subscribe to this channel. We'd love to keep communicating with you. We're going to have monthly live videos going out. We're also in the comments and in the description. Make sure you click the link if you want to have updates on what we're up to. We've got some great monthly newsletters to get out to you, so please subscribe to those as well.
Yeah.
And then just
what am I saying? I think there's something on my list to say the other two. Yeah. So obviously Amplify was the big thing. We wanted to make sure while we've got Dan that you guys have an opportunity to sign up for that. One thing we wanted to do from these podcasts was produce something called like a challenge sheet. So the idea is like we can talk about these great ideas for youth ministry, but is it just a good conversation, or is there something actually you can put into practice? And so what we thought would be good is after every podcast is to just have 4 questions, or 4 kind of action points that Dan's going to share with us. And then we're just going to produce like a little download sheet, so you can like click in the description or pop on the website. And the idea just being, as a leader, what's one thing I can put into practice this week? Another one for the second week, third and fourth. So the idea is that you've got a whole month where there's some stuff that you can try out as a leadership challenge. And then hopefully when we come to the next podcast, something just to carry you that little bit further. And so, Dan, have you got 4 challenge points that you might be able to give to us?
Yes, I would say number 1 is start asking questions about this season, but that also take you beyond this season. And so I gave us 4 questions. Ask some difficult questions. Ask questions that you don't want to ask, that might mean that you end up not doing what you used to do, but actually there might be more fruit. I think the second one is that actually decide everything. So in terms of actions, like how are we actually effectively discipling young people in this season through community, but actually through developing them. And number 3 is intentionally create shareable content. I think it's really, really important. And then number 4 would be ask what is the thing that I might be missing? What's going on in my town, city, village? What's show me what I cannot see with my own eyes.
That's very good. So what we'll do is we'll take those and we'll put them into a bullet point form, and then like for those guys that are subscribed, you can get that by email, and hopefully just a part of your own devotions, you can sort of execute those things week by week, or things to reflect on. We wanted to finish by giving you a bit of an encouragement and a Bible verse as well. So something I've just been reading, and I feel it falls very much in line with a lot of what you've shared, Dan, is Isaiah 46. And it says this in verse 8, "Remember this and stand firm. Recall it to your mind. Remember the former things of old, for I am God, and there is no other. I am God, and there is none like me. I declare the end from the beginning, and from ancient times things not yet done, saying, my counsel shall stand, and I will accomplish all my purpose. And I was just reading this. It was based off Oswald Chambers' spiritual leadership reflections. And what struck me was, people like Moses, he begins his ministry at 80. And so he has 80 years of just living his life. Jesus is thought to start sort of 30 thereabouts. And there's one verse in the Bible, Luke 2:52, that sums up his 30 years, which is Jesus grew in wisdom and favour and stature with both God and men. And there's this kind of waiting period in all of these great stories in the Bible. And why would it be different for you and I that we feel like we're in a period now where we're not able to kind of get going, get stuff be done? Actually, maybe it's a period of waiting and that God is doing something in us. But it's also remembering that he's not forgotten the former things. He's not forgotten his promises to you, that God has got his hand on this. He has got plans and purposes. He has got an end in mind, and he says it there, I have purposed and I will do it. And I think it's just remembering that in this season, it's a marathon and not a sprint. That we've got to respond according, haven't we? The lane has changed. There's maybe some obstacles, but this year will pass. There'll be a future, but there'll also be the question of what did I do in this time as well? How did I lean into my faith? How did I trust God and recognize that God has got something to do across our lifetime, not just across the next few weeks? And I'm sure you already know that already because you're all brilliant, wise people when it comes to the Bible and your faith. But just to encourage you, God has got this in his hands. He's got a long-term plan in mind, and he's faithful to you. The Bible says he's faithful to complete what he started in us. He began a good work in us. He's faithful to complete it. And so I think just as we've talked about mindset, Dan, it is just that. Now let's have an attitude of faith in this, that we could easily just roll over and give up. But that's not what we're called to do. We're called to be faith people and take that faith stance. And hopefully we've just had some good discussions really, and learned maybe just some things that we can keep in mind as we try to minister through this season, as we help each other out, as we encourage someone. And I love those action points as well. I'm going to be putting those into practice for my life. And so we just want to give you a massive thank you, Dan. Thanks for coming on our first podcast show. It's been great having you. And that's all we've got time for, really. So thanks for tuning in, and thanks for listening. Bye-bye.